Welcome everybody to Mom Street USA. My name is Jackie, aka Wishes Mama, and joining me is my wonderful co-host Kate, aka the Disney Cicerone, and together we are Mom Street USA. And today's podcast episode, we are going to be talking about all the tips and tricks that we have for someone who may be pregnant while traveling to the Disney parks. So this is something that Kate and I are not currently experiencing, but have experienced in the past and are hoping to give you some good information to help you if this is a situation you find yourself in. Kate, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm a little bit tired because I was at Disneyland all week or at least for half the week, and I definitely did like 16-hour days, like open to close. And so I'm dragging a little bit, but I'm good.
Yeah. Understandably. Yeah. Well, I hope your trip was good.
It was great.
You had a nice time, and you will get caught up on sleep hopefully this weekend, maybe.
Yeah, that's the plan. But I am excited to dig into this topic. And it was funny because I had to kind of like go back in my mind to when I was pregnant with my kids and how I felt during that time, the things that I experienced. And I have 3 kids, for those of you who don't know, and Jackie has 2. So between us, we have 5 children, 5 pregnancies. So we're no stranger to what it feels like to be pregnant. And we are also, Jackie has a little bit more experience being pregnant in the parks. I actively avoided being pregnant in the parks.
That's fair. That's totally valid and totally fair.
Just because I knew how I felt, and I just didn't want to do the parks while I was pregnant. So I just chose to wait. But I did go with little babies though. So I also have advice for that.
Yeah, I feel like we should probably do like a whole nother little series on like age ranges and traveling to the parks with infants and all of that.
For sure. Toddlers.
I'll add that to my list of different topics for upcoming episodes. But yeah, this is something we've been asked. This is something that I feel like a lot of people, we can't always pick when our trips are. And sometimes we don't pick and plan if we end up expecting. So kind of how to navigate that can be super helpful. And this information is good for if you're traveling with someone who is pregnant, if you are that person who is pregnant, that way you kind of can go into that trip with some expectations and be able to kind of make the best out of the entire trip.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you might not be pregnant, but you might travel with somebody who is. You might know somebody who is, who you can pass this information along to. Sometimes I think I'm somebody who likes to just collect information. So because you never know when it might be helpful for somebody else. So even if I wasn't pregnant, I probably would still listen because I'd want to know if I could help somebody if they have questions about that kind of thing. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, let's hop into some information. I do want to start this episode, and we'll probably say this several times throughout this episode, with our disclaimer, and that is nothing that we say in this episode should be taken as medical advice. We are not medical professionals. That is not why we are here. Any final decisions about what's best for you, what's best for baby, or what's best for baby that you're traveling with, whatever it may be, and what you're able to ride, what you're able to do, should all be a conversation between you and your healthcare provider. So I'm just going to say that right off the bat, because later we'll get into some ride suggestions. And again, we'll preface it again when we get there, but none of this is medical advice. Please talk to your doctors before your trip. Even if you're not planning on doing a whole lot, still, I encourage you to talk to them just to double check anything you may not have thought of.
Right. And everybody's pregnancy is different. Everybody's body is different, and everybody's situation is different. So something that might be okay for like the general, pregnant mom advice might not be true for you if you have a high risk pregnancy, you have something specific going on. So definitely consulting your doctor is the smart way to go. So we definitely encourage that.
Yes. So let's start off by talking about when to go, which is funny because we just did a whole episode on crowd calendars and weather and when to visit. But let's we won't dive too deep into that because we literally just did. So if you missed that, check out our last episode. But Kate, what is your advice on if you are going to the parks and you are pregnant, when is the best time in your opinion to go?
Yeah, I would definitely try to avoid the hotter months of the year, just because that in general is just way harder for a pregnant person.
Yeah.
It's just very, very tough on your body to be out in the heat because everything gets a little more swollen and you lose water really quickly and you have to keep hydrating almost constantly, which you probably should anyway, but even more so when it's hot out. And it's just extremely hard, physically hard on your body to go when it's hot out. So if I had the choice to not go in the hottest months of the year, I would probably avoid that. I also didn't mention here, but I probably would also say I probably wouldn't go on those like holiday weeks when it's extremely busy, and spring break. No, spring break's also in there.
Right.
Just because there's a lot of people around that are like, not only is there a lot of people, so it's like stressful and overwhelming, but there's a lot of people bumping you and things like that when it gets really super crowded and you get compressed in crowds and stuff. And I probably personally would just avoid those times just for safety reasons.
Yeah, I agree. That being said, I did a trip when I was pregnant in June. So I do have a little bit of experience with that. Yes, and it is completely possible. And again, you'll hear us say this and, you'll probably get sick of us saying this. You know your body, you know what you're capable of. You and your doctor can have that conversation. And I did, with my midwife team that I worked with on both of my pregnancies before I went, I asked them probably way too many specific detailed questions about the rides and what kind of motion was okay for me. And I'll get into that a little bit later whenever we go there. But it can be done. But yeah, if you have some control over when you go, it's not a bad idea to kind of avoid those really busy crowds and those really hot months if you're able to.
Yeah. And it can really also depend on what trimester you're in, which we'll get into in a little bit as well. So that being said, now we've kind of like talked about when to go, but we didn't get a detail of it because we've already talked a lot about that. But also let's think about planning ahead before you go. What kinds of things should you pack and put in your suitcase? Jackie, what are your thoughts for that?
Well, I do just want to mention that all of our just generic packing tips that we have given on Mom Street USA can all be found in our second episode, which we did a whole packing for Disney trip. So if you're like starting from square one and you have no idea even where to begin with your family or your trip, start there and then come back and see us over here because we'll give you some more details. So start there. One of the big things that I thought of right off the bat that I know that I did for especially my trip that I went in June. So I went in June. I was like 7.5 months pregnant when I went in June. So I was in.
Goodness, Jackie.
Yeah. We were there. Like it was a very interesting experience, but I don't regret it at all by any means. But one of the main things that I thought about was water and hydration. Now, this trip that I'm specifically thinking of was with my first. So I didn't have any other kids. It was just my husband and I. But we made sure that whatever water bottle I had with me was something that I could carry with me at all times. That way, even if like my husband went on a ride and had our like main park bag, I still had my water with me. That way, if I was sitting in the shade and just letting him go on something that I wasn't going to, I had that with me. That being said, I also I did another trip where I was about 6.5 months pregnant in June with my second one. And we had a stroller with that one. And I always made sure that we actually bought me one of those like crossbody little water bottle carriers.
Oh, smart.
And so I would take that. We had like our bigger water bottles, but I would like fill that up if we were going to like wait in lines, or if I wasn't going to be right by the stroller, or if like we didn't have our big backpack with us because we had like my toddler at the time with us and all that kind of stuff. That way I always had water on me no matter what. Because you don't want to get stuck somewhere and not have access to water and get dehydrated is not a good situation. So making sure whatever you have with you is something that you can carry with you. And then also considering something like a liquid IV or an electrolyte replenisher of some sort that you might want to have with you as well. Because sometimes water is just not enough. Sometimes you need a little bit of that extra to help
especially
replenish.
In Florida when you're sweating a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Allie Beth, I did it twice. I actually did three total.
The first one.
Listen, I was a teacher, so it was like summer was the best time to go, and
totally get it.
All of those.
Sometimes
things,
you just don't have a choice, and it's just what you have to do. And I get it.
Yeah. And we wanted to take the second time around. So like, yes, I did it the first time, but the second time around, we wanted to take my son before my daughter got here. So that way, it was what it was.
Kind of like a baby moon with your kid.
Yeah, right. Well, and it was his first trip, and we had lots of friends with us. So it was, I had to do very little. It wasn't a very difficult trip for me because we had lots of friends that came with us for that trip. But
that's good.
Yeah. So yes, definitely consider what type of hydration situation you want to have. If you've got other people with you, make sure that they are reminding you to hydrate and helping you hydrate. So that way you at least have that basis covered, because I think that's one of the most important things when you're visiting the park when you're pregnant.
Yes, absolutely. I would also say maybe if you are going to carry a sort of bag with you, if you don't have a stroller to put anything in, like if it's your first kiddo, opt for a smaller park bag if you're going to carry it yourself. If you don't have somebody with you that's going to carry it, like it's smart to, like, if you have a partner with you that can carry the bag, that would be ideal. So then you don't have to carry any weight, but do opt for something really small and lightweight if you can. Or you can also use the lockers in the park if there's a lot of things you want to take for the day, but you don't know, nobody wants to carry them all. You can put them in a locker and then store all of your essentials, and then just carry on what you need with you. So your water bottle and whatnot, like just the essentials. That's a way to just kind of make it easier for yourself, since you're already carrying some extra stuff with you anyway.
Right. I will say, though, that when we went, there were certain points in time where I actually requested to carry our bag because I needed the lift to help realign my back from just being in the parks and being pregnant and walking around and feeling front heavy.
Yeah.
There were a couple of times where I was like, can I just for I need 20 minutes to help get my shoulders back and maybe my posture.
Maybe your third trimester, you can, for short periods of time, wear the backpack.
And it was little stints, and I just remember my husband being like, okay, sure, whatever you need.
I can totally understand that. Yep. Balancing it out.
Right, exactly. So let's talk about a couple of other things that you want to make sure that you have with you in your bag. This next one is especially important if you are doing Florida, or if it's going to be hot, regardless of which coast you're going to, but some sort of a fan or a cooling towel or a combo of both of those is an excellent idea to make sure that you have with you. So that way you can cool yourself off if there's no AC available, or where you are, you're standing in the sun, all those things.
Yeah, and I have a note here from Eileen that says poncho, which we didn't really put on the list. And it's true, though, you probably would have a harder time unless you have a specifically maternity rain jacket if you're in your third trimester. A poncho would be great because it would cover all of you when it rains, and it usually does in Florida. So if you're traveling to Florida, we always recommend a poncho in general, but extra, make sure that you have one, because your regular raincoat might not fit if you haven't invested in a maternity one. So that's great.
Yeah. Very, very true. And speaking of clothing and things that you wear, comfortable clothing, cool clothing, layers, depending on the weather, you're going to have to kind of see what you need, but making sure that you have enough coverage, because your body temperature may not be what you're used to whenever you're pregnant. A lot of people run either really warm or really cold because your hormones are all over the place. So just make sure that you've got, right. So just make sure that you've got yourself kind of situated with your layers of whatever you want to wear, and go for comfort. A lot of us love to dress cute in the parks, and we bound and we all that kind of stuff. When you're expecting, just go for comfort. And if you're someone that wants a little bit of both, I know whenever I went, I ordered some shirts off of Etsy and had them made. So that way it was a couple cute little shirts that I wore, but they were very comfortable, breathable, just basic cotton shirts. So that was something that I did.
Yeah, it's smart. And I would say my favorite thing to promote is always compression socks, which Liv in our chat, who said she's gone to Disney pregnant many times, says I put them on every night before bed and sleep in them. Yes, I do that, and I'm not pregnant. I'm literally wearing compression socks as we speak because I had such a hard week in the parks and my body is tired and my feet hurt. So I was like, I'm just going to pamper myself and put on my compression socks. But they are really, really helpful when you're pregnant, especially because the blood tends to like pool in your lower extremities and you have so much extra fluid just in your body in general. Just pregnancy is just a fun time. So so they really do help an awful lot, and supportive padded socks as well. You noted that, Jackie, and I agree with that. Very important.
Yeah, or a combo or whatever you need to make yourself comfortable, because your feet are going to hurt regardless, right? Like there's really no way around it. Regardless of whatever shoes you wear, whatever socks or compression socks you have, your feet are still going to hurt. So just give yourself the best possible situation so that way maybe it'll help a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the other thing is shoes, comfy shoes, multiple pairs of supportive and comfy shoes. You definitely don't want wet feet. You definitely don't want to be stuck wearing the same pair of shoes if they start hurting your feet, they're giving blisters, whatever it may be. And make sure it's a pair that if you've got swelling, it's a pair that will allow for some of that so that you're not going to cut off that circulation to your feet if you're tying your tennis shoes too tight when you're walking around the park. So just really consider what type of footwear you want to take with you and definitely take several options with you.
Yeah, no, that's really smart. And I'd also say they're important for stability as well. Like there's not a ton of uneven surfaces at Disney, but there are situations where you're walking in and out of things and stepping up and down and all this stuff. So make sure, your balance gets a little bit wonky sometimes when you're pregnant. Yeah. So making sure you have shoes that are going to support that as well is really important.
Yeah, and in my chat over here on our live, Daylin is saying a belly support band, which I totally forgot to mention, which is a really good one just to have in general for pregnancy, but especially when you're walking around the parks or you're on your feet a lot, you definitely want to have that support for your belly if you're in that situation.
Yeah, if you're definitely in the later trimesters, that's really important. I feel like I wasn't in the parks, but I had like a couple of really supportive maternity tank tops that were like, that gave just a little bit of extra, like, not compression, but like support to that area.
Yeah. And there are some shorts that are that same way where like they have that, a lot of the maternity shorts have that kind of extra fabric or extra elastic at the top, and some are more supportive than others. So you definitely want to find a pair that will give you support and still be comfortable and not feel like it's squeezing you and be too tight. So you definitely want to kind of trial that to see what's going to be comfy to wear all day long.
Allie Beth also says K-tape for back and belly if the bands don't work. I've never used that, so I don't have experience with that.
A lot of athletes use it for muscles and things like that. That's where we mostly see it, but I definitely could see how that would be helpful if the band doesn't quite give you the right type of support, or you need it a little bit further out. I can imagine that would be a good alternative if the belly bands aren't comfortable for you.
Yeah. Yep. Well, all right. So we've covered shoes and socks and things that you wear. But also there's some other things you should make sure that you pack, and that would be snacks with protein. Just because you're going to need that to keep going. And you have so many calories you have to consume, right, when you're pregnant, just to keep going. And I would also put on there maybe some snacks. Oh, you already have it here. Like, kind of. So snacks that maybe if you are in your early trimester, your first trimester, and you're feeling motion sick, but that there's some things that you can help combat that you can eat some crackers or whatnot. Or there's specific things you feel like eating, but you don't feel like eating hardly anything else. Yeah. Make sure you bring those with you.
Yeah.
So that you can eat something while you're there.
Yeah. So my first trip pregnant, I was like still in my first trimester, right at the end of my first trimester. And the only thing that I could eat in the morning was oatmeal. Mm-hmm. And so we took oatmeal with us, but then I also had these like oatmeal, they were like Quaker oats oatmeal squares. And those were like close enough that like I could get by with those. And so I literally, because we drive, and yes, we drove on those trips that I was pregnant too. We literally, my husband bought boxes of them and brought them with us.
I love it.
So that way I had them. And I did well, but that was the majority of what I would eat in the mornings, because it was really just true morning sickness is what I had in that particular pregnancy. So once I hit about 11 o'clock, I was fine, and it wasn't, I didn't have any major issues, but that was all I could eat from about 7 a.m. to about 11 a.m., or else I would get really, really nauseous.
Yeah, I had mostly saltines was like my thing for my first trimester, and then it became cream of wheat, but that was really hard to take on the road. So it wasn't
travel well. I just
no
see Kate with like
that.
with like a thermos,
cream of wheat. You're like, oh, are you having some tea? No, it's my cream of wheat.
Hey, I mean,
Gross.
what you got to do what you got to do, Kate. Liz said that she would order a plain grilled cheese with no butter at every restaurant for the beginning of her pregnancy. So yeah, you all know if you have experience being pregnant, you know what you craved, or if you're not there yet, or you're just kind of starting this journey, you'll get there. You will know what you crave and what works and what doesn't. So yes, just make sure you have that with you.
You'll also know what you can't eat.
Yes.
There might be smells this is good for restaurants. There might be smells that really trigger you and you can't handle them. And you'll find those out pretty quickly.
Yep. So, sorry, I keep going on little story tangents. They're all relevant, I promise. So funny in that you mentioned that, because in my first pregnancy, the smell of barbecue was like an absolute no-go. So I knew, and I had prepped ahead for, okay, when we go to Magic Kingdom, I'm not going to take that pathway where they sell the turkey legs. And when we go to Epcot, like I knew those two. Well, it was my first trip to Universal. And I did not realize that inside of is it the Boar's Head, I think, restaurant, they also have them there. And we were going in to find something to eat. And I was the last of like my line of friends that were all walking in. And I walked in and immediately pulled a U-turn and walked back out. And I was like, nope, nope,
not doing that.
To the point where literally my husband like had to come find me. He's like, you disappeared. Where did you go? And I was like, so the smell in there? He's like, oh, because he knew that was one of my triggers. He was like, oh, I didn't even notice it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to sit out here. Go get your food. You are all good. Bring me a butterbeer, but go get your food. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it. And that was my biggest trigger in that first pregnancy was I could not, it was immediate nausea if I smelled any sort of like barbecue kind of scent.
Yeah, because your sense of smell is so heightened, and then there's just specific ones that are like, I can't handle that. Nope, that's a big nope. So
yep, yeah. So
something to be aware of as you're planning, also where you're going to eat. Even if you can also like develop it later in your pregnancy too. I don't know if that happened to you, but like like it's all of a sudden you can't stand something.
Yeah, I had aversions. None of them were really like smells, though. It was more just like general food aversions, and I was like, nope, can't eat that. That would make me feel like not great. Yeah. So it might be something where you be careful with your ADRs, your advanced dining reservations. I would almost lean away from making a lot of ADRs just because you don't know what you might feel like eating on any particular day. And you might, or you might have the smell situation for a particular place. So I would kind of lean towards like quick service just because you can decide on that day what you want to eat, or bringing your own food if you prefer. Right. And we did lots of snacks. Like it was like, oh, well, I'm hungry. It's an hour later. I'm going to go to this cart over here. Epcot is great for that, by the way. So many options.
That's true. Kristen says that she couldn't stand the smell of the inside of her refrigerator both times.
No.
That's got to be really hard.
Yeah. Well, I do just want to mention that if you are someone that has nausea or motion sickness and then you are pregnant or any of those types of things, just make sure you bring those items with you, whatever you may need. And definitely check with your doctor again before you take anything for any sort of ailment. Please make sure you check with your doctor on those things. So if you know that you're someone who's prone to motion sickness or you're worried about it, check with your doctor before you go to make sure you know what you're allowed to take and like how much in a day you're allowed to take, because you may need multiple doses at the parks where like if you're at home, you may only need one dose. and then you'll be fine. But if you're in the parks and you're constantly around some of those smells, or you're, whatever, maybe you're watching the carousel go around and around, whatever it may be that triggers you. And we did do an entire episode on motion sensitivity at Disney. That's episode 50 of Mom Street USA. So if you need to know what's out there, if you've never experienced motion sickness, but you're worried you may now that you're expecting, check out that episode. We give you lots of good things there. But again, always check with your doctor.
Yes. And I even think of things that are a little bit more natural, like ginger and stuff. But even that, you might want to consult with your doctor, because there's even natural remedies for stuff that can also not be good during pregnancy. So just keep that in mind.
Yes.
Okay. So we've talked about things to pack, but let's just talk about maybe some things to remember. Keep in mind if you're going to the parks and you are expecting. All right, Jackie, you had the first one. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Your body will react to your park days very differently than before. So even if you are a seasoned Disney goer, which I was before I went on all of these trips when I was pregnant, your body is going to react completely different than what you're used to. Yep. So be patient with yourself. Give yourself grace. Just take some breathers. The second point that I have down here too is just plan a rest or break time for yourself more often than you think you're going to need. Even if you're like, well, I'm not sure, do it. Just do it. Plan that ride on the people mover for a couple laps. Put your feet up across from you, or plan to go back to your room. Whatever it may need to look like for you, just plan to take that break.
Yeah, and it's don't be afraid to take a break, even if you haven't planned it either. If you're starting to feel in pain, or your feet are swelling, or you're really feeling nauseous, whatever it is that you're feeling, I would say it's really important to just do like check-ins with your body. So take a moment, in a place where you're not in anybody's way, and just kind of like close your eyes for a moment and be like, do like a mental like rundown of like what's going on with my body right now. How am I feeling? How is my head, my feet, like my heart, everything that's going on with your body. Do a little mental check-in. Just it's 10 seconds, and then it will tell you like, okay, I'm doing okay. I don't need water, or like, whatever it is, like, Right. Or maybe I do need water. I need to sit down. My toe is really hurting. Whatever it is. But I think it's smart for us to do that anyway, even if we aren't expecting. I think we go and go and go and go and go at Disney until we're falling apart sometimes. So I think it's really important that we are very, very aware of what's happening with our body, but even more so when you're pregnant, because you're trying to grow another human. So
right. Yeah. And if you're someone that's like worried about stopping to do that, just set an alarm on your phone for every hour. Set a timer, have your significant other or your friends that are with you help you check in with you in a polite way. Because, sometimes when you're pregnant, you don't want people checking on you every 10 seconds. But, have them check in on you. And Kelly put over here, there's no shame in resting. Absolutely. No. And there are so many lovely places in the parks and your resort that you can take some time to just sit and relax.
Yeah. And I mean, even if they frame it as like you as a group decide, okay, we're all like once an hour or once every 30 minutes, we're all going to do kind of like a check-in for ourselves about how we're doing. And we're all just kind of assess it. So then you don't feel like it's all about you, like, or everybody's looking at you as if you're the one that's like dysfunctional or something and can't make it through the day, because it's frustrating to feel that way, as if you're holding everybody up or something like that. So it's like, we're all going to check in and feel how are we feeling at any moment, and then we'll kind of like make our plans according to that, and then you don't feel so like you're holding everybody back.
Right. Well, and making that plan ahead of time is helpful, because I know like when I was on my trips, I met my best friend down there, and I knew that she would sit with me while Andrew went on the thrill rides. So like that was helpful too, to know like, oh no, like she's going to sit with me. We're going to like chat about whatever while he goes and rides. And then when he comes back, then we'll be good. And that was helpful to just like know that I had a buddy to sit with me, which was wonderful. Yes. My best friend Stevie is wonderful. So it was nice to know that like, yep, she's got me. We're going to just like chill and hang. Or like if she knows me well enough that if she sees that I need something, she's going to be like, hey, stop it. Like let's go sit. Come on, let's go over here. Those types of things. So having someone that can do that for you is huge.
Yeah. And it's good that the people that have people that know you really well and know what you need, because there's some of us that are like, if somebody told me to go rest, I'd be like, go kick rocks with open toe shoes. I know what I need, No, not really. I'm not mean like that. I'm usually like, no, I'm fine, thank you.
Don't
but
tell me what to do. Mental note. Don't do it.
But everybody knows, like, making a plan ahead of time and communicating with the people that you're with, like how to communicate with you about like checking in with you, I think is really important. That's what I was trying to communicate there. Not that I actually do really appreciate my friends checking in with me and making sure I'm okay, but just saying.
Very true.
There's people that would react that way. So
yeah, right. And I do also want to mention that if you're going to take a break in your room in the afternoon, be sure to put your feet up. It sounds like such a silly little reminder, but it's so important to put your feet up. Ice them if you need to. If you're swollen, bring some of those like single use, like the breakable ice packs that you can get in like first aid kits. Bring some of those with you, or bring a couple extra bags to go get ice from the ice machine. But the reusable packs are a lot less messy because they don't melt like true ice does. But bringing those with you to have, that was huge for me when I was in my third trimester at Disney, having the ability to get that ice on my ankles and my feet. Or if you're not able to do that, soaking your feet in cooler water, running the tub and putting your feet under the cool water, those things like that can really help get some circulation and help with some of that swelling and the pain that you're going to have in your feet.
Yeah, and I'm getting a lot of really great suggestions over here. Kristen says maybe do a water park day to stay cool, or just do a lazy river type things. And Christina's saying the pool is nice to relieve the pressure on your belly too. So taking a swim during a break, just to kind of like let your whole body take the weight off of your bones, so to speak, can really help a lot. That's something that my midwife recommended a lot, was swimming, especially late in my pregnancy.
Yeah. So all of those ideas, mix it up, do a little bit of, that way you don't feel like you're stuck in and dictating what your group does, do a little bit, do a rest in the pool one day, do a rest in the room another day, do a water park day, lots of different options to still be able to rest, but still have fun and experience Disney at the same time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Another thing you can do if you're in the parks, just to keep in mind that there is first aid and baby care centers that are available if you're not feeling well, if you're starting to take a turn and you've drank water, you put your feet up or whatever, or if you just know yourself and you're like, I am not feeling well and something's not right, go to the first aid. That's what they're there for. They will help you. They can check your blood pressure. They can, they can give you whatever you need to make sure that you're okay. And there's no shame in it. There's no cost for it. You just go to the first aid center if you're not feeling well. Don't hesitate. It's important that you get the help you need if you're not feeling good.
Yeah.
And then baby care centers also has a place that's like cool. You can cool off and you can rest and put your feet up. And if you need that, they're there for you.
Yeah, and they want to help you. Like literally they're there to help you. So even if you're just like, I really need to lay down for like 5 minutes to like catch my breath and cool off, like they can help you do that. If it's just as simple as that, they are more than happy to help you.
Yeah, that's what they're there for.
Nice. Another good thing to take note of is noting where bathrooms are in the parks, because we all know, if we've ever experienced pregnancy or been around someone who's pregnant, you need some extra bathroom stops along the way. So just knowing where they are, making it in your habit to go before you get in a line if you're going to be riding anything, or just know that you need to go more frequently, and don't wait to go, just plan ahead.
Yeah. And accommodating a little bit of extra time in your day too as you're making your plans. That's something that maybe pre-pregnancy you wouldn't really have to think about too much, like you would have just normal bathroom breaks. But you are going to need a little extra time to go to the restroom more frequently. And that's just eats up a little bit more time of the day, but it's so necessary.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And Liv made a good point. She said that's my number one recommendation when pregnant at Disney. Know the bathrooms, especially if you're experiencing morning sickness too. That way you know where you have a bathroom if you need it for whatever reason it may be. That is super helpful to know where it is.
Yeah, I read somewhere that, having a paper map on hand that has the bathrooms noted, even though you can look it up in your app, and that is also, but maybe you're like your phone's not working or it's not loading or something and you can't find, like, it might just be good to just have a paper map in your pocket that you can look at really easily. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah, or have someone else help you with that too.
Yes.
if you're going with someone who's been more frequently, or those things like that. When I'm oblivious and I don't pay attention, but like my husband was always really good about, like, if I needed a bathroom, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, there's one over there. I saw it." Because he pays way more attention to the things that I need than I do. Like, that's just how it works. So it's like, have someone with you that can help you with that too, if you need help navigating the map and figuring out where you need to go.
What's really funny is that when I was in Disneyland this week, I don't know if it's because I'm like, I look like I know what I'm doing because I'm doing, like, capturing content or something, or because I'm by myself. I have so many people ask me where the restrooms are.
Really?
I'm like, I don't work here. But I tell them because, it doesn't hurt me to tell them, like, oh, it's right around the corner. I was like, this is such a weird phenomenon. I am used to people asking me to help them take their family photos because I'm a solo person. They see me taking pictures. They assume I probably know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. But now I'm just like, so now I know where all the restrooms are just so that everybody else can know. It's funny.
So if you're going to Disneyland, take Kate with you. And she can help you.
In your pocket. Just for the bathrooms. Yes. That sounds like, I don't know. Yeah. None of the history, none of the information.
Just for bathroom locations. Gotta know the important details here, Kate.
I do know where the good ones are.
See, there you go. Exactly. So let's talk about the next item on our list that Kate added, and that is just knowing a little bit ahead of time about your different trimesters in your pregnancy and how that may or may not affect you, and just different things to consider in those. So Kate, do you want to kind of explain that for us?
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of this is just if you've already been pregnant, you probably already know a lot of these because you know yourself. But if it's your first pregnancy, you just might not be aware of some of these things to think about specifically for the parks. So in your first trimester, obviously morning sickness, we've already talked about that. So it might be hard finding the foods that you want to eat. So consider bringing your own snacks like we talked about. Spinning rides also might be a little bit more challenging in this particular trimester because it can trigger dizziness and nausea that you're not used to. So you might develop more motion sickness than you ever have had in your whole life. So just be aware of that. This is a positive to this trimester is that it is a better trimester for rides that have a lap bar, not like wild and crazy rides where it might like run into your stomach, but like the easy rides, which we'll talk about the safe rides to go on a little bit later. But just in general, the ones that have a lap bar. And it's also a good trimester for if you need to get in and out of awkward places because you don't really have a lot of mobility issues yet. You don't have a hard time maneuvering yourself. So that is a better one for that. Jackie, do you want to talk about the second trimester?
Yeah. So things you can experience, generally speaking, in your second trimester, typically less morning sickness. You may still experience it. Again, everyone's different, but typically less morning sickness. So hopefully less issues with motion sickness as well. You will have some more energy, which is good. You're not feeling so exhausted as you are kind of in that first trimester. You won't be showing as much as your third trimester. So you may have a little bit better mobility getting around. You're not quite as far along. But you still need to make sure that you are staying hydrated and taking breaks, even if you're not feeling totally pregnant yet. You still have to treat your body that way to make sure that you're getting it what it needs.
Yes, absolutely. So I would say if you have to go to the parks, I would do second trimester would probably be like what I would aim for if you need to go pregnant.
Yeah.
Third trimester. That being said, Jackie's favorite time to go to the parks. Third trimester, it is harder to find rides with safety restraints that are comfortable with your baby bump because a lot of them will hit it kind of like square in the middle. So that makes it a little bit more uncomfortable and also a little bit challenging for anybody who's sitting with you because then it can't go anywhere near them. So, Getting on and off certain rides can definitely be more difficult. I'm thinking about like in Disneyland, if you're trying to get on Storybook Land canal boats where the boat's already kind of like tippy and you have to step down into it and there's not like, it's harder to, it's just awkward.
Yeah.
You get a lot of swollen feet and ankles in this trimester. Again, everybody's different, but that I feel like that's pretty standard, especially if it's hot outside.
Yeah.
More back pain. You got to wear that backpack to balance it out, like you said. And also you have a lot of looser joints because your body is getting ready for the main event. So you have a lot of things that are just like stretched out in your body, which can make you a little bit less steady in general. And it can also make you clumsier. Like it's like your grasp and stuff has changed with your hands. It's just a very strange time for your body is all kind of loosey-goosey, which does make it just, I wouldn't say dangerous, but it's just like, it just makes it, you have to be way more aware of where you step and how you move. And so you want to make sure you wear your best walking shoes and you take all the breaks you need for those things as well.
Yeah. And Liv has a really good point. You mentioned the canal boats, but also anything with a moving belt like Haunted Mansion or Finding Nemo at Epcot. Those can be a little bit difficult getting on and off if you're stepping onto that moving platform as you load. So things to consider as well with that.
Yes, absolutely. And I would also say, so beyond the trimesters, beyond all the things, I would say just if you're going, make sure you're embracing your limitations, which is really hard, especially if it's your first pregnancy and you're not used to everything changing. I feel like by your second pregnancy, you just know, like your whole life has changed by that point. So you just know, you just have limitations, so that's fine. But maybe embrace them as like a positive thing because it'll help you explore new places in the parks. You know, you get to sit and enjoy maybe the ambiance of Main Street USA, or you get to, just enjoy being in the parks and taking it all in and not necessarily being in such a rush because you do have to sit down and take breaks. So pregnancy is such a tiny, tiny little part of motherhood. It's like it right. feels like forever when you're in it, but it goes by like that. So, embrace it and enjoy it and kind of like take it in. Like, this is the time when I am, growing this little baby and they get to hear all the little sounds of Disney and I'm here, and just be present and enjoy it.
Yeah. And I think it's so fun for me to know and for my kids to know that like both of their first trips were when I was pregnant with them.
That is special.
And they were like both, I was far enough along that like they definitely heard the sounds of Main Street and, all those types of things. So that to me, being such a Disney adult and our family being such a Disney family, I think that's really cool. So
yeah, it's a really special moment. And I think it's good to not feel, it can be so easy to complain or feel frustrated or feel, especially when you can't go on all the rides everybody else can, or you can't have the drinks, so you can't do all the things that you used to do. But it really will be over before you know it. So just take your time and enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I think that kind of talks about just some things to remember. Can we talk about the next? I'm excited about the next part.
Yes.
So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was if you are going to Disney and you're pregnant, you can do a pregnancy announcement while you're there. This is something that we did for my...
I didn't see this yet.
So this is something that we did for my son for my first pregnancy. We did 2 different little announcements. So asking characters to help you announce is a super fun way to do a pregnancy announcement. So we did one with Baymax, which was we love Baymax, and that was just a super fun one to do. So our little sign says future citizen coming to San Francisco on it. Actually, that is my best friend Stevie's handwriting because she wrote that for us.
I think there's a close-up of it, right? Oh no, that's a different one.
I think there is one of that one too where you can see the sign if I put it on there, hopefully. But there, so you can do like that little, just a little cute little fun photo to do. I might not have put it on there. I know the other
closer picture there.
Yeah. Yes, Stevie's mentioning Baymax was so excited, like as excited as a Baymax robot could be, but just like the way that interaction was just so sweet. So we loved that. That was the character that my husband picked to do one with because we wanted to do a couple. with that. And then we also did one with, we actually got to do one with Mickey and Goofy. So this was at the old Disney Visa photo area. And so that one was super fun because we got to do Mickey and Goofy together, and they were so excited when we walked in. And I was like, okay, I think I said something like, I'd love your help with something if you're willing to help us. And then showed them the little sign that we had. And that one said, future Disney pal coming, and we didn't know the gender yet, so there's a little Mickey and a little Minnie on that one, and they were so excited to help us with that one. And that's the one we actually used on our social media for our pregnancy announcement for that one.
That is adorable, Jackie.
Yeah.
Now I'm sad. I want to go back in time and do that.
Again, super fun way that you can do a pregnancy announcement. You can do signs, you can do t-shirts, I've seen people do little Mickey ears, people have done little shoes, all the typical pregnancy announcements that you see people do, but then you can just kind of make them Disney.
Then you have your other ones in here. Do you want to show your other ones?
Oh, my other photos?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So you have this one.
Yeah.
It's really cute.
Yes. So I talked earlier about I had a couple shirts that I made. So that one has a little Mickey baby on it. And then if you see, I have a button, and my button says baby's first trip on it. And I wore it on my stomach.
That's adorable. I love that.
Yeah. So we did that one. And then the other shirt that I had, it's hard to see in that photo, and I couldn't find a better photo of it, but it has a little, a genie lamp on it, and it says it's not a lamp, so don't rub it.
That's cute.
Yeah, because I was one of those people that I didn't have a really difficult pregnancy, but I didn't like other people fussing over me when I was pregnant. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't tell a lot of people. My entire second pregnancy, we announced we were pregnant and announced it was a girl all at the same time, because I just was don't need people fussing over me. So that was my big thing when it came to pregnancy. So that shirt felt very appropriate.
Indeed. Yeah, well, that's fun. I love that.
Yeah. So again, even though it was June and even though it was really hot, we still had a really good time and had a lot of fun memories. And we met a bunch of other characters that trip too, but those were the two that we specifically took the little sign and everything. I still have that sign. It's still back in my storage area back there. So yes. So sweet. Lots of different ways that you can announce pregnancies at the parks for sure.
And you can definitely use those PhotoPass photographers, which I'm assuming you did for those characters. But you can do it even other places too.
Some of them were, and some of them Stevie took for us. So either way, we had options.
But you can do that even if you weren't doing it with a character. You could have a PhotoPass photographer help you with your announcement. They do that kind of stuff. They're fine with that. And even just for documenting your pregnancy, even if you're not announcing a pregnancy, even just taking cute pictures with your baby bump. And they started doing this thing they're testing in Disneyland right now, and I'm really hoping they roll it out to all the Disney parks. They're currently doing it in California Adventure, but it's these 15-minute mini photo shoots, and they don't cost anything extra. So you just you have to stand in line and wait for them. But then the PhotoPass photographer will take you for 15 minutes and take a whole bunch of photos with you around a specific land.
That's awesome.
So that would be really wonderful to do for if you are celebrating your pregnancy with your family.
Right. And they do have where you can purchase those longer photo sessions with PhotoPass photographers and things like that. So lots of different options if you want to do photos. Definitely. Our friend Liv is saying my favorite picture is me holding my belly and Pooh was holding his belly too. That's so cute.
That's adorable.
So yes, lots of different options depending on, your favorite characters and things like that. So lots of fun, different ways that you can document that. And I will say, again, I didn't like being fussed over when I was pregnant, so I don't have a ton of photos from when I was pregnant from either pregnancy, but I do have Disney photos. So
I just didn't like how I looked when I was pregnant.
Same. And I was like, I don't want pictures of, it's just my personal preference. If that's you, take all the pictures that makes your heart happy. But for me, I I never did maternity photos. It just wasn't my thing for me personally. But I do have Disney photos from both of my pregnancies. We didn't really do a full announcement my second pregnancy. We used photos from Disney, but we didn't do a full announcement because it was my second child and I had a toddler on that trip. Yeah. So it was much more difficult. And I wasn't showing as much because my pregnancy was, my kids are about a month apart. So like it was a little bit earlier of a trip and I wasn't showing as much. So like, even though I know I'm pregnant in a lot of my photos, I don't look pregnant in a lot of my photos from that trip. So I was still wearing like the majority of my regular clothes and things like that. So
not all of us are like you, Jackie.
I also had really tiny babies. Like both of my babies were born like both of my babies, like my daughter was under 6 pounds. My son was right over 6 pounds. So I just had tiny babies.
Tiny babies. Yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't me.
I can't control it. I'm sorry.
By the time
moral of the story,
like, it's just huge because this is like your body's just used to being pregnant by that point. So good times.
Right. But moral of the story is there are lots of cute ways that you can do pregnancy announcements, characters, or in the parks, however you want to do it. So consider that if you will.
And we always suggest that you take your photos earlier in the day before everybody starts to get tired and before you get really hot and sweaty, which you probably will, even if it's not a hot time of year, just because you're pregnant. So always take your pictures in the morning if you can. I even like to do it. I know I do rope drop and stuff, but if you can find time to squeeze in a quick photo while you're doing all those things, that's a better time of day to do it while everybody is still fresh.
Yeah. And if you're not worried about group pictures, then maybe your group goes and rope drops and you rope drop photo pass on Main Street.
That's right. Excellent suggestion.
Yes. Yes.
Speaking of rides, shall we talk about some rides that are safe rides for pregnant people?
Yes. And here's our disclaimer again. These are rides that are most likely safe to do. But please consult your healthcare provider before doing any sort of attraction or experience at the Disney parks, because we are not experts in this, nor should our word be taken as the end-all be-all. So please ask your healthcare providers about what is safe for you before you go. And I actually have, like I said, I asked way too many questions, but in my first pregnancy, on my first trip, I was so early in my pregnancy that my midwife cleared me to ride anything I wanted to ride, even though I was pregnant. So,
well, that's nice.
Yeah,
I have heard a lot of people that like when they're really early on.
Yeah, it's positioning in your body and where things are and how they're sitting and all that kind of stuff, that there was literally no chance of anything. Now, that being said, I was cleared to. I did not, because I was concerned about motion sickness.
Well, I also think you could be cleared too, and then still also have that be like, I just don't feel comfortable personally, like mentally feeling like I want to take that risk. And I think that that's A-okay too. I think that you know your body well enough to know that I don't feel comfortable doing that, and you should listen to that, because that's good mom instincts there.
Yeah, absolutely. But it did kind of ease my mind knowing, like, okay, if there is something that I feel comfortable doing and I do want to try, then I don't have any issues doing it. So I didn't do many of the thrill rides. Unfortunately, that's the only trip I've been to Universal. So I still haven't gone on any of the thrill rides at Universal because I was so concerned about getting sick that I was like, I'm going to just enjoy the atmosphere there. But I did ride almost everything that I wanted to when we went to the Disney parks on that trip. So again, and I was fortunate enough that I had been on a lot already. So there were things I was like, no, I've ridden that already. I don't need to. I'm not gonna do it this trip.
Yeah. All right. So all that being said, I think we're starting in Walt Disney World, and then we'll pop over to Disneyland and then do a little bit of Disneyland Paris talk as well. So Jackie, you want to kick it off with Magic Kingdom?
Yes. So I'm just going to kind of run down some rides that we feel like are potentially safe rides for you to do if you are cleared by your healthcare professional and if you feel comfortable doing it. So at Magic Kingdom, things like Dumbo, Magic Carpets, those kind of style of rides, People Mover, pretty much a go-to. Just be careful on that ramp when you go up. Make sure you're holding on and you've got someone behind you to help if you need it. Little Mermaid, Carousel of Progress, PhilharMagic, Monsters Inc., Laugh Floor, any of the show type stuff. The Carousel, Haunted Mansion, Small World, Tomorrowland Speedway, again, Tiki Room, Buzz Lightyear, Jungle Cruise, Pooh Bear, Peter Pan, shows like Enchanted Tales with Belle, going over to Tom Sawyer Island. This was Family Treehouse if you're okay with stairs, the railroad. So really a ton to do at Magic Kingdom that, again, most likely safe choices for you to do, even if you are expecting.
Yes. Should we pop over to Epcot then? So we have 3 Caballeros and Figment, Living with the Land, Spaceship Earth. Again, those things, like, I generally say if you don't have a height requirement, usually it's probably fine.
Right.
Things with a height requirement, that's when I would be like, pause. And also the Disney also has signs. They have a key on their map, but they also have signs that say like, maybe not safe for pregnant women who are expecting.
Yes. Yep. So let's talk about Hollywood Studios. A few over there. Toy Story Mania, Runaway Railway. Those do both spin. So like motion sickness, you just got to kind of know if you're going to be okay with that. Going to shows like Muppet Vision, I didn't include on there, but like the Frozen sing-along, Indiana Jones, those type of the Beauty and the Beast show. Any of those shows obviously are going to be fine, but those types of things are all safe over at Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, shows are great too. Get you off your feet for a while. Yep.
Yeah, and a lot of them are in the shade and or in AC, so like just watch it a couple times. It doesn't hurt anything.
Yeah. Do you want to do Animal Kingdom? Because I'll probably do Disneyland.
Yeah, that's fine. So Animal Kingdom, things like Tough to Be a Bug, Navi River Journey, Triceratops Spin, and the Wildlife Express Train. I will also mention, I didn't write it here, but I thought of it, that I know that the Safari is one that a lot of people always kind of wonder about. And that is one that I actually did ride when I was super early on because I was cleared. But just remember how bumpy it is.
Really bumpy.
And that is why they really, they have that warning on there from the Disney parks that they do not suggest that expectant mothers ride. So that is one that I was sad to miss out on my later trips because that's one of my absolute favorite ones. But yeah.
You could always go over to Animal Kingdom Lodge and just like go walk around and see the animals there. And then
there's lots of walking paths and things in Animal Kingdom that you can see a lot of the same, some of the same animals at least.
Right.
But all of these, again, are things that we suggest. You just got to know what is best for you and talk to your doctor.
Yes. All right. Shall we hop over to Disneyland?
Yes.
Disneyland's got a lot of rides. And luckily, a lot of them are actually ones that you can go on while you're expecting or potentially go on while you're expecting, and they will probably be okay. So some of the ones that should be fine is, except for maybe lap bars. That's the only thing if you're in your 3rd trimester. So Alice in Wonderland, Buzz Lightyear, Casey Jr., the Disneyland Railroad. That's a wonderful one. Conductor Jackson was in here earlier and saying like the baby can listen to the sounds of the train. I was like, yeah, that's really sweet.
So cute.
The Haunted Mansion, when it reopens, It's a Small World, Jungle Cruise, the Main Street Vehicles, Winnie the Pooh, Mark Twain Riverboat, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. The spinning is also a thing on there as well. Peter Pan's Flight, Pinocchio's Journey, the sailing ship Columbia, though it is out in the sun, so be careful if you're riding around. There's no shade on that ship whatsoever unless you go down into the hold. So be aware that you need some sort of shade for that. Snow White's Enchanted Wish and the Enchanted Tiki Room. Now, there's some other rides that may have some challenges, so they're more like ride with caution and know your body and know what trimester you're in and all those kinds of things. And so the Astro Orbiter does spin and spins pretty quickly, and it's also really hard to climb in and out of. So yeah. I don't know that I would do that pregnant, but that's totally up to you and you know yourself. The Adventureland Treehouse, there's a lot of stairs. Mm-hmm. It's like 80 feet high. So
right.
You know, it's a little bit more physical exertion and tripping hazard as well. So be careful with that. The Davy Crockett Explorer canoes, it's physical exertion because you are actually rowing. So if you are used to that kind of exercise and that doesn't bother you, you also have to step in and out of kind of a tippy boat. It's not super tippy, but a little bit of tippy. Dumbo the Flying Elephant is a spinning warning. The Finding Nemo submarine voyage has really narrow steps to get into the submarine and cramped spaces. So be careful with that one, if you're especially if you're prone to motion sickness as well. It can trigger that. So the King Arthur Carousel for spinning, Mad Tea Party for spinning. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride has kind of just jerky movements to it. Pirates of the Caribbean has 2 small drops. So if drops maybe trigger nausea, that's something to watch out for. Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin has some jerky movements, and you can choose not to spin it, and then it's not as it doesn't have as much spinning. But the Storybook Land Canal boats, like I mentioned, can be difficult to get in and out of as well.
But all good things to know. And if you heard a duplicate ride from Magic Kingdom, it's all the same type of warning. So even though something like Dumbo may be okay and safe, but it does spin, So again, those things you just have to take into consideration when you're looking at these rides and thinking about what may or may not work for you.
Yeah. Hopping over to California Adventure. Anything inside the animation building is a great option. They've got Turtle Talk with Crush and Animation Academy, so that also gets you out of the heat of the day if it's hot outside. So that's a great place to sit down for a while. The Little Mermaid, Mickey's PhilharMagic, and then Monsters Inc. Redwood Creek Challenge Trail, although you wouldn't be able to do much on it, but you could go and sit and enjoy the vibes there if you need a place to, rest while everybody else is going on rides. It's a nice place to just go and chill. Yeah. The Red Car Trolley, the Soarin' Around the World, Toy Story, Midway Mania, but of course the spinning on that one as well. And then Web Slinger Spider-Man Adventure should be fine. Just be careful you don't, get those spiders too much and then, overexert yourself.
I debated about Soarin' because I feel like it's one that
it really
probably okay, but it really just depends
where the belt goes to, around your stomach, and so how long you are in your pregnancy and stuff. I think that really depends. But it doesn't have any jerky movements and doesn't spin or anything. So I feel like that one's kind of on the edge depending on where you're at in your pregnancy. Rides that might have some challenges in California Adventure, the Golden Zephyr. I don't know why you'd go on that ride anyway, but I have major issues with the Golden Zephyr. But if you go, it spins. The Inside Out emotional whirlwind ride also is a spinning one. The Critter Carousel, spinning. The Luigi's Rollickin' Roaster spins and also has some jerky movements side to side, so it kind of knock you around. The Jumping Jellyfish might give you the sensation of rising and dropping because it could make you queasy. So Mater's Junkyard Jamboree also has kind of jerky movements and spinning. And then the Pixar Pal Around, which is the big Ferris wheel. Avoid the swinging gondolas.
Yeah.
Especially because there's no sort of restraint there at all. So you're just holding on for dear life, and you could get really sick. But you could go in the ones that are non-swinging and be fine because they're just sitting. And the Silly Symphony Swings are spinning and also kind of a weird restraint system. So I probably would advise against that one.
And you can always look up if there's a ride that you're unsure about. Disney is really good about posting information about those rides on apps and websites and things like that. They'll always post warnings, and you can easily look up those lists that they suggest you don't ride. And then also just checking the signs before you even go on a ride. If you couldn't find it online and you're not sure, checking in with the cast member that's at the beginning. If you're like, I've never been on this ride, can you tell me about it? And then just checking the signage outside as well can help you with that too.
Yeah, you could easily ask the cast member, is this recommended for expectant mothers? And they would be able to tell you that information. Just, I'm sure that they're all trained in that. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's all I have for Disneyland. Are we ready to talk about Disneyland Paris?
Yes, let's talk about Disneyland Paris because that's exciting.
It is. So I will say that even if you're not planning a trip to Disneyland Paris, this is a conversation I feel like we need to have as a Disney community, because what they do over there, I wish was in the Disney parks in the US. So what they have in Disneyland Paris is they offer a priority access bracelet for all of their pregnancy guests. So this gives you priority access to attractions, although not immediate. So you basically go through the premier access line. It's the equivalent of their Lightning Lane line, but a lot less people use it because it's really expensive.
Yeah.
So This is a really good perk. And it also gives you priority access to Disney character meet and greets, shows, restaurants, and shop desks. So you don't have to wait in line as much. So the essentially, they're giving a lot of support to pregnant women so that they're not on their feet as much, which is
amazing. Amazing. I remember you told me about this because you discovered it when you were over there. And I was like, I'm sorry. Why? Yeah. What? That's amazing. It's like, it's so good to see a Disney park doing that. And then it makes me sad that it's not universal at all of the Disney parks.
I'm like, this should be a thing in the US, because it's like, if you're pregnant, you're already going to be missing out on like half of the things that you can't go do. So it's a very sweet gesture for them to like support you as a mom, but also like kind of a condolence to the fact that you can't enjoy half of the things you're paying to enjoy. Right. Yeah. You know, like it's such a nice perk. So the way that this works is, well, let me also mention that the special parade and viewing areas that you can get into are like primo spots, like in the front row for the parade, in the front for the show. It's an amazing spot. And it's also nice that you don't have to wait for those shows forever and be on your feet or whatever. You can go, you know, and get in a little bit later in the evening or whatever, so you don't have to stand and wait. So what this does is for expectant mothers, you can accompanied by maximum of 4 people to attractions and a maximum of 2 companions for shows and parades. So it's a little bit of a bummer if you have a big party, because not everybody can go with you. But, you know, sometimes you can split up anyway with your party, and those who want to go on the big rides can go, and you can have somebody go with you on some of the smaller ones, or you can go by yourself, depending on how you do things. But the way that you get this is you have to have proof of your pregnancy dated within 3 months in either French or English. And then you can go get this bracelet at City Hall or at the Disney Hotel concierge desk if you're staying on Disney property. They might write, it's possible, at their discretion, they might be able to write a number on your wristband that shows that you're allowed to have maybe 5 people instead of 4. Oh. They'll make that accommodation for you, maybe, but not always. So just ask nicely if your family is a family of 5 or 6, right, that you'd like to all go together. You can also consult the accessibility map to know, which looks like this, and it will tell you all the different things that you can go on with the bracelet or not. And basically what it is you can't go on anything with the bracelet that says pregnancy is not allowed. So this is the downside of it, is you can't take it on and off. So you can't decide to use it when you want to. Once it's on your wrist, it's there for your whole trip, or you have to cut it off. And so you will have to wear it the whole time. And then if they see it, they will not let you get on rides that don't allow pregnant women on them. So that's the downside of it. But odds are you're probably not going to go on those rides anyway.
Right.
So,
right. But like first trimester, that may be a little tricky depending on what you've been cleared maybe by your health professional.
That's true.
They're not going to take the liability of allowing you to go, even if you claim that the doctor said it was okay.
Right. So here's the key to the symbols there. And you can see that there's ones where it says expectant mothers may not ride. And then it says not advised for pregnant women. Mm-hmm. So my understanding from what I was told is like, it's definitely for sure the ones where it's like, you can't ride, they won't let you on. I don't know for sure if they will not let you ride on the ones where it's not recommended, or if it's just like, that's kind of your discretion. I'm guessing it's more your discretion. You can decide. But if it has any one of those symbols, if it has the red triangle, or it has the red circle, those ones you can't use Premier Access to get on. So it's only the attractions that do not have that you can use it. Even if you want to ride them, you're going to have to just ride it in the regular line, the standby line. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think it makes me sad that the U.S. parks don't have something along those lines. I think it's wonderful that the Disney people and officials in Paris have deemed that to be something that they want to offer to their guests.
Yeah, and I think it goes right back into like, I feel like European standards of, taking care of moms and like maternity leave and stuff like that are just way better than the US.
True. So
they're just like, they respect the fact that you need to go and you take care of your baby, and that starts when you're pregnant.
Right.
And so they're going to start taking care of you as a mom and making sure you have what you need. And I'm like, why don't we have that here?
Right.
Petition Disney to have this at Disney parks in the US.
Right.
Because it's not like that means you're getting a whole bunch of extra stuff. It really means like you already are not able to do a whole bunch of things because for the safety of your baby. So it would be nice to be able to be supported and know that you can have a seat or not have to wait as long or stand or be on your feet as much.
Right.
That would be really nice.
Right. Yeah. I wonder if if like Shanghai or Tokyo have anything like that.
I didn't look it up. I didn't have time. So 100% honest. And they might. It's possible.
Right.
But at least for Disneyland Paris, if you're headed there, make sure you look up how to get. You do have to get proof of pregnancy from your doctor. So that's a step you would need to take if you want to use that. But definitely a really cool perk for being pregnant.
Well, and I wonder if some of the hoops that the U.S. parks would have to jump through are like HIPAA privacy things. If they're requiring proof, I wonder if it's hard to regulate, with, and I'm not going to get into it, but with all of the new things with the DAS system and things like that, I wonder if to an extent, maybe something like that was discussed and they just squashed it because they didn't want to deal with HIPAA.
Yeah, it could be, but I feel like if you're voluntarily with HIPAA, I think if you're voluntarily supplying that information to get something, then that is up to you to do it, because they're not forcing you to give it to them. You can just choose to visit the park and not have it at all. But if you want to participate in this thing, then you have to provide that. I don't know for sure why they don't do it in the US, or maybe they're worried about people abusing it. That's also a possibility. But
Right. And maybe the percentage of pregnant people that are visiting Disneyland Paris may be a lot lower than the Disney parks in the US. So lots of things to consider. Either way, I still wish that Disney World and Disneyland had something, even if it's not the same, I wish they had something for those expectant moms that are visiting.
Yeah. We just have baby care centers. That's all we got.
Which is nice, however, knowing that there's more out there in the other parks.
I know. Yeah. It's a bummer. And yeah, if they did anything to support moms, I feel like moms with newborns and moms that are pregnant, those are it's really, really tough, to be in the parks in those situations. So anyway, I just wanted to bring to your attention. So if you are headed to Disneyland Paris, you know that is an option for you. But if you're headed to the U.S. parks, you're on your own. You can get GD Plus.
We wish you the best. Godspeed.
And I would recommend GD Plus too.
Yeah.
We didn't mention that at all, but I would recommend that for if you are pregnant, just to not have to stand on your feet so long. Yeah. I think that just make that be a gift for yourself. Treat yourself. Treat yourself.
treat yourself to Genie Plus. Literally. I'll stand in line with you, and then I'll use the lightning lane, and I'll see you later. Yeah, awesome. Exactly. One other thing that we had not mentioned that I do just want to mention before we kind of wrap up this content for this episode is if you are in the parks and you're looking for somewhere quiet or cool to hang out, we did talk a lot about that in episode 25. I just went and looked because I was like, I need to make sure I tell them where to find it. In our episode that we talked about traveling to the parks with different disabilities, we did talk about in that episode different quiet and cool places that you may be able to find across the parks. So if you know you're going to need somewhere in the parks because you're off property or you're coming from further away, wherever you're staying, and you don't really necessarily have the ability to leave and come back, that may be helpful for you to review as well.
Yes. And I have a comment here from Allie Beth that says there's always wheelchairs and ECVs as well. So especially if you're at a place, either if you're, I don't know, I don't want to give any medical advice at all here, but I was like, if you're definitely need to be off your feet more for any reason, but your doctor still cleared you to go to the parks, I guess. Or if you're feeling like I just can't do all that walking, but I'm still good to go to the parks, that those are really great options for you if you have a trip planned. And so
Right.
Yeah.
Or even if you start off the week okay, and by day 3 or 4, you've reached your limit, but you've still got more days to go, renting one of those from the front of the parks can definitely be a helpful way to continue enjoying the magic during your trip.
Yeah. There's no shame in renting scooters and ECVs if that's what you need to enjoy your vacation and if you need it for mobility, like go use it, rent them, do what you need to do.
Yes.
Yep.
And do keep in mind they are first come, first serve at the parks. So if you're debating, hemming and hawing about that decision, do it earlier rather than later so you're not out of luck, because you don't want to decide you want one. And then if it's super busy in the parks, rarely do they run out. I will mention that, but just in case, I do like to always mention that they are first come, first serve. And they those do also transfer park to park. So if you pay for an ECV or a wheelchair at one park and you're park hopping, it will transfer. Just take your receipt with you.
Right. And I personally, I know there's a lot of people that will rent ECVs from an outside company.
Mm-hmm.
I say that's great if like you know that you have one guaranteed. Then like if you know you're going to need it and you can't risk not getting one at the park, then that's a great option. If you know that it's like it would just be really convenient to have, if it was like you're like I'm hoping to have one, I probably would prefer to rent at the park just because it's a hassle to get on and off the buses with them. And sometimes you have to wait for a couple buses if you're at a bus resort and you're taking Disney transportation. So that's just my 2 cents about that.
Yeah, that's a good point, that it may be in that particular situation. And again, none of this is medical advice. You know what you need. You can talk to your doctors, all of that. Again, we will mention, like I told you, we would mention like a million times during this episode because we want to give you helpful information, but we also want you to talk to your doctors to make sure that you're doing what's best for you.
Or your midwife, if you're raising a midwife.
Yes.
Just saying.
Whomever is in your medical team, talk to them.
Yeah. Sandy puts a good point. Keep in mind they take up space in your room if you need them for more than one day. So that does take up a significant amount of space. And if you have a stroller already with other kids that you're taking and other, like it can get really crowded in that room really quickly. So that's another good point. All right. So I feel like, unless you have anything else, Jackie, I feel like that wraps up our main discussion here about how to survive being pregnant at Disney.
I think so. I think that covers that part. So I think we're ready for our Ask the Moms.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So every podcast episode, we end with our Ask the Mom segment where we take a question from our community and give a short and sweet answer to the best of our ability. So for this question, today we have, which resorts have transportation to the parks that are not buses? And they didn't specify World or Land, so we'll just do both. Land has a few less that we really need to talk about if we're talking about
Disneyland first.
We can, that's fine.
Virtually all the Disney resorts, you can walk to them. Disney and the Disneyland Hotel has a monorail that you could also use with the new Pixar hotel as well. You could walk to that if you wanted to. But I would say, and then pretty much anything, as long as you are staying close by, you can walk, or some of the hotels nearby have shuttles. So you'd have to look up the Good Neighbor hotels. You'd have to look up whether or not your particular one has a shuttle, but that would be a bus. So pretty much all the Disneyland resorts are walkable to the park. So Disneyland was an easy peasy answer. Let's move to Disney World.
Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, what your alternative transportation is from the resorts to the parks. So if we're not talking buses, you've got the monorail and you've got the Skyliner. So those are going to be your main two. There are some boats and things, and I'm not going to get into the weeds really with a ton of the boats because that's a lot
of boats.
It is a lot of boats. So if you're looking for boat transportation, I'll be honest with you, I don't remember off the top of my head what all has them, but there are boats that exist to Magic Kingdom if you are close in range to Magic Kingdom.
Most of the ones that are in the Bay Lake area, the Seven Seas Lagoon.
Yeah, and then there are boats from the like Epcot, International Gateway, Hollywood Studios area to some as well, to some degree. Because
like Swan and Dolphin has a boat that will go to Epcot, but that's pretty much it.
Right.
There's
That may be all of them, but we may have forgotten some. So let's talk about the monorail. That's the easiest one. If you're looking for a monorail resort, you really are looking at the Grand Floridian, the Polynesian, and the Contemporary for those. And those are all deluxe level resorts for the monorail. Kate, I know you love the Skyliner. Would you want to tell us about what's on the Skyliner?
Okay, so the hub for the Skyliner is a Caribbean Beach resort. So that would be like the primo one if you really want to take the Skyliner, because you don't have to transfer to anything else. You can just go there, and you can either go to Epcot or you can go to Hollywood Studios. Right next door to it is the Riviera. And the Riviera, you could walk to that hub from there if you wanted to, or you can take a quick little hop and go. So that one's also on there. And then at the other end, if you go all the way to the end of the line, there is Art of Animation and there's Pop Century. So those are value resorts. So Caribbean Beach is a moderate resort, and then Riviera is a expensive resort. It's a deluxe resort.
BBC, yep.
BBC deluxe resort. And then the two at the end of the line, Art of Animation, Pop, are value resorts. So there's a little bit of something for everybody depending on where you go. But those are the only ones that are actually on the Skyliner line.
Yes. And I will mention that boats, monorail, Skyliner, those are all free transportation if you're staying at those resorts. Not something you have to pay for. There is always the option of using a paid service. You can do an Uber, you can do a Lyft, you can do a minivan if you're staying on property, starting on property and ending on property. You can do a minivan. So there are other options as well if you're really trying to avoid buses at all costs, and renting a car is obviously also an option too.
I was just thinking, though, you probably could, if you stayed at Beach Club or Boardwalk, anywhere or Yacht Club, you probably could take it. You obviously walk to Epcot, but you could take the Skyliner to Hollywood Studios from there. So that's one more place you could go. But they're not technically like Skyliner resorts.
Right. Yeah. So anything in that would you say Boardwalk, Yacht Club, Beach Club?
Yacht Club.
Yeah, those ones. I was like,
and Swan and Dolphin, but it's a little bit further out, so
right.
You'd have to walk a little farther.
Yeah, you would have to either walk to Epcot or take the boat to Epcot and then get on the Skyliner.
Complicated.
Yes, but you could if you really wanted to. If you really, really wanted to, and you just really didn't want to take a bus, that would be your option for that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I personally try to avoid the buses as much as possible. I have not driven there ever, which is funny. I've driven in other people's cars. Like I've been a passenger in other people's cars driving around there, but I've never driven personally because I just prefer Disney transportation. But I don't like the buses, and so I'll purposely try to stay in a hotel that is on some line of something, right, just to make sure I don't have to always take the bus. But a lot of places, you're still going to end up having to take the bus because there's no place that goes everywhere bus free.
Right.
So if you're on a, let's say if you're staying at the Polynesian, you can take the monorail to Magic Kingdom, but you're going to have to take a bus to all the rest. Well, and you can also take the monorail to Epcot.
Yes.
But you can't take, for the other two parks, for Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom, you're going to have to take a bus.
Right.
Or drive yourself.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And the Lion King says Fort Wilderness Lodge asking, and that is not on the monorail line, correct, but it does have boat transportation to Magic Kingdom. Mm-hmm. So that is an option there, which is nice. Same with the Wilderness, Fort Wilderness Campground. So.
Yeah. And any of those ones that have boats to Magic Kingdom, you could technically take a boat to Magic Kingdom and hop on the monorail to get to Epcot if you wanted to avoid the boat or the bus that way. It's just going to take you longer. So at that
probably
point,
wouldn't do it.
I say at that point, unless it was like the monorail was like the main reason you were going to that direction, then fine. Because we did that when we were doing resort hopping, you take the boat to end up on the monorail, those types of things. But if you're really looking for the quickest and easiest way to get to Epcot, I would not take a boat to Magic Kingdom, because then you have to take the monorail to the TTC, switch monorails, and then take the monorail to Epcot.
Yeah, just don't do it.
I would advise against that. So yes, lots of different transportation options, and it's hard. And if you're someone who if this was your question, or you've got other questions about transportation and you've got specifics, just send us a message so we can help you navigate it, because some things are more specific answers when it comes to that kind of transportation at Disney World, it gets tricky.
Yeah. And I just say don't do that only because some people are saying I would do that. But like, yeah, no, you can totally do that.
You can.
I probably wouldn't do it just for interest of time. But if you really wanted to avoid the buses, like absolutely go do that. I'm not saying, I'm just not telling you what to do or do not do.
Right.
I probably wouldn't just for interest of time, because you have to wait at each of those points for whatever transportation device. And then it already takes a long time to get around Disney property there. So
yes. So keep all of those things in mind. Well, we always want to say thank you so much to our community for giving us questions for our Ask the Moms segment. We always appreciate hearing from you guys. We love it when you guys ask questions, send us messages, all of those types of things. So if you've got a question you need help answering, you can't find the answer to, you want our input on, send it our way. You can find us at Mom Street USA on all of the different socials across the board. You can always find us on Discord. Our good friend Kirk at Walrus Carp has his Discord that we have a Mom Street section in, so you can find us there. Our email is momstreetusa@gmail.com. So any of those ways are perfect if you are looking for some help or need transportation help, or just have a general Ask the Moms question, send them our way.
Yes. And we always, like Jackie said, we always love hearing from you guys. And it's really fun for us to be able to, it's like a game to be able to figure out how to help.
Right.
Like, okay, what would I do in this scenario?
Yeah.
So it's really, really fun for us to get to help you guys. As Lizzie says, I just need help. Well, there's some things we can't help with, but when it comes to Disney, we probably can help you.
I can help by being a good listener. I am good at that.
And if you need more help than just answering a couple simple questions and stuff, if you're like, I really need help planning this thing because it just feels overwhelming to me, Jackie is a wonderful travel consultant, and she's also a Genie Plus expert, and she knows how to do all those things. So if you reach out to momstreetusa@gmail.com, she can help you out with whatever you need for planning. She's not a travel agent, she's a travel consultant, just to be clear. But she knows Walt Disney World like the back of her hand, and she can help you out with all those things.
I do. Although I will say I'm learning new things every day about different ways that, everything changes. I feel like all the time at Disney, and little tiny things get tweaked here and there. And, so there's always something new to learn, but I do my best to stay on top of it. And I truly love helping people with their trips, and it's just so much fun for me. So I am more than happy to help you with whatever questions you have.
Jackie's also leading a really wonderful book club in our Discord. So she's a multi-talented lady. So
hey, I'm just here for all the fun things. So it's good. And right now we're reading one of Kate's books. Oh, you're on this side. I'm mirrored. There we go. Pointing to nothing over on that side. So yeah, we are currently reading Kate's first fiction book, second book total, Where the Fireflies Dance, in our Discord book club. So if you want to join us, come find us Sunday evenings on Discord at 8 p.m. Eastern. We read just a few chapters and chat for a little while. And Kate joined us last week and got to hear us talk about and see us chat on the, in the chat with our typing about what her book was, what was happening in the book for those couple chapters. So that was fun.
It was really fun to also kind of talk with you guys, and you guys asked how I did certain things or how I came up with certain things, and be able to kind of give some insight into that. So that was really neat. And I loved hearing what you guys thought about certain things and like hearing your reactions, because no author ever gets to hear that. You just got to hear like the reviews afterwards on like Goodreads and Amazon and stuff, but you never get to hear like the live reactions to how people feel reading your book. It was so fun. I loved it. That's so great.
Good. I'm glad. Not gonna lie, I texted our good friend Allie Beth, who's always in there with me, afterwards, and I was like, I was so nervous reading Kate's book in front of Kate. Even though we're like besties, I was just like, oh my gosh, Kate's here. I gotta make sure I read everything the right way with the right inflection as she intended it to be, which like, no, you would never put that pressure on me ever. But internally I was like, okay.
It was fun to hear somebody else read it, because like then like I know what it sounds like in my head, but then to hear you read it, I was like, oh, that's interesting, and it came off that way. But I think you're great. I think everything you did was great. So I was like,
thank you. I was not fishing for a compliment by saying that by any means, but thank you.
You're gonna get one anyway. That's how that goes.
Yes. So all of this information that we just talked about, the majority of the links for all of the things can be found in our Mr. Lincoln bio. So Kate's books, our Discord. You can find our website there with our merch. You can find our contact information there. All of the good stuff is in that link in our bio. So if you're looking for anything we talked about, check there first. And if you can't find it, send us a message.
And also DisneyCicerone.com/MomStreet has kind of access to this podcast if you want to listen to it again. Also has a whole bunch of resources that we have listed there for where to find water in the parks. Very good for pregnant ladies. There's maps of where to find the best water in the Disney parks, as well as a lot of other resources for you guys to have for your, just as you're planning your Disney trips, checklists and things. So that is a good place to head for all that information. And all that being said, I think that's it, right? We got it.
I think so.
What are we doing next time on Mom Street USA?
You know what? I looked at this. Our next episode, we are diving in to the Disney Cruise Lines.
Woohoo! Oh, I'm excited.
So, yes. So we have coming up next a multi-part series, probably at least 4 parts, maybe more, on the Disney Cruise Line. So we're going to talk about how to pick where you go, what boat options they have, where you can go, how to pack for it, what are the activities they offer, what's the food like, all of it. We're going to cover all of it for you guys. So that is coming up on our next podcast episode.
I just booked another cruise.
Did you?
I'm going to do a writer's retreat with my friend that is a best-selling author. So we got an after room on the Disney Dream that has a giant balcony, and we're going to write for a whole week.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. So, I'm so excited for you.
It's not till next year, but it's okay. I'll save up. Yeah. I'm very excited.
Well, yes. Yay. See, well, then this will be perfect because you'll be you're in the midst of planning for it right now.
Yes. So it'll be good to do some extra research and things too. But
yeah.
Shall we wrap up though? I feel like we've got everything now. Okay. Thank you everybody for joining us for this episode of Mom Street USA. We hope that if you are expecting, or if you're traveling with someone who is expecting, these tips really help you have a wonderful and more magical Disney vacation and also help keep you a little bit safe. So thank you guys, and we will see you next time on Mom Street USA as we dive into the Disney Cruise Line.
I'm so excited for that. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.